Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the evening. Joining me today, Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat reporter, Charlie O'Connor, as well as Broad Street Hockey's own Kelly Hinkle. Season's over, guys.
Yeah, it's done.
It's dead. No, we have a savior. We have a savior. If anyone,
the tall boy,
if anyone can carry this team, it's the guy with the back that is about 9 feet long. The shoulders, they're about yay wide. It is 6'7" Ivan Fedotov, and we'll get into him. But, last night, Charlie, it was that game just... How are they doing this to us now? After everything it took to get here, how have they now lost 3 in a row to horrible teams and 5 in a row overall?
I mean, the Islanders.
All right,
the Islanders are not
teams.
good. The Islanders are not horrible.
The
Canadians and the Blackhawks are horrible.
The Islanders at mediocre.
Yeah, I would agree.
Is the top of the scale of the last 3 teams they've played.
Guess what the Flyers are?
Below that.
Well, I think the Flyers' true talent are mediocre. Right now, they are playing bad.
Probably. Yeah. Is that just what it is? Like, it's catching up to them. You played this way all year, and now, meh.
I don't think it's that simple, but that's certainly an element of it, is that we talked about it last week, that this race for the Eastern Conference final playoff spots is with a bunch of teams that are not very good.
It is a pillow fight.
Because you had a bunch of teams that everybody thought were going to be better. Like, the Devils aren't even in this race. They've dramatically underachieved. The Penguins are, very much on the outskirts. I think most people thought at least one of the Senators or Sabres were going to take a step forward. Neither did.
They did not.
The Red Wings are in it, but they didn't take a step forward either this year. They're just meh again.
They're just kind of the same, but everyone else stinks, so they're in it.
Right.
So it is kind of I'm not saying the Flyers did not take a step forward this year, because they clearly did. Last year they picked 7th. The year before they picked 5th. They are better this year without a doubt. However, if the Eastern Conference was as good as most people thought it was going to be going into the season, they would not be battling for a playoff spot right now.
No, the Devils should be in the flyer spot. They should be in the top 3 in the division.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, the Hurricanes and Rangers are where they're supposed to be.
Right.
The Penguins should probably be battling with Detroit and Ottawa and Buffalo for the wild card. Tampa was going to get in somehow, some way, because they're Tampa.
Right.
And then everything else should fall in line. But since 2/3 of the teams we just named stink for whatever reason.
Actively stink.
Talking about the Islanders are mediocre, and it's these teams have somehow been worse than these mediocre teams. Yeah. The Flyers continue to be in this. The Flyers haven't won a Metropolitan Division game calendar year 2024, and they're 3rd place in the Metropolitan Division.
Wild. That's delightful.
That's fucking insane.
It's wild.
Although I don't know that the Flyers would have been bottom of the conference.
No, they just wouldn't be in a playoff spot.
I feel like
they'd be on the bubble.
I think they'd be where the Devils
are more talented than people give them credit for.
This probably plays into why you're more angry than I am right now.
Yeah.
I don't think they're more talented than people give them credit for.
They'd probably be where Buffalo, Jersey, and Pittsburgh is.
Yes, I agree with that. Where it's they're not out. They're not out of the.
They're not Columbus.
Playoff race.
Yeah,
they're not. It's still one of those things
Columbus?
where we will be going on these shows saying, well, if they win out, they could still get in.
Yeah.
It's possible. They're not officially eliminated, but everybody kind of knows that there ain't no way the Devils are getting in the playoffs, even if they're not eliminated yet. Right. In the same way that Ottawa is. So that's where I think they probably would be, and that's probably where they should be in a functioning as expected Eastern Conference. Instead, they are where they are, which is technically somehow still in a playoff spot, even though a lot of that is due to the games at hand, but they are still in a playoff spot right now, folks.
And let's do the standings and playoff odds and everything now, because it's just kind of where the conversation went. You look at the way things are. Flyers are holding down this playoff spot somehow, some way. But we were saying
don't talk
off
to me
air
about points percentage. I don't want to hear it.
I don't want to hear about the actual, what the standings probably should be.
I don't know what that
because
means.
that's when it's all even. We were talking before we went live. We are now into April. The season ends 16 days from now, April 18th. The Flyers season ends 14 days from now, 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
There's still 2-3 games in hand on some of these teams.
It doesn't make any sense.
Washington makes one of those up tonight, but they're it's more games in hand than they had before the weekend on Washington. This is fucking ridiculous.
Right now, and this will change tomorrow, tonight, obviously, because there are teams playing and the Flyers are not. Right now, the Flyers have played the most games of any NHL team. There is no other team in the NHL with 76 games. Why do they do this to us?
Yeah, why?
And by they, I don't even mean the Flyers. I just mean the universe.
Yeah, Gary Bettman
Why do they do this to us?
I feel like he issues a directive every year that says, fuck the Flyers somehow with the schedule. This year it was games in hand.
Spectacor has been funding this league for 50 years. Yeah. Why don't we get the treatment that the other,
Why can't we get the Leafs treatment?
Yeah, exactly.
It is actually true. And this is something that Micah Blake McCurdy does every year. He looks at the schedule losses that every team has in terms of, when you are rested and you play a tired team, or when you are tired and you play a rested team. And the one team that always is at the bottom invariably every year in terms of most tough games versus easy games, it's always the Flyers.
Which is nuts. To me, that should be Dallas or Calgary or a team that has to constantly have a ridiculous travel schedule. We're in the middle of most of the teams in the league.
Yeah.
What I would have to guess, and this is just a guess, is that, and you would think it's less so now, but they still get on television a lot. A lot of it is the league wants to put the Flyers on TV. And to get them on TV as much as possible, they have to really work the schedule and finesse it. And to do that, they have to put the Flyers into more difficult situations than other teams because they have to make it all fit with the schedule. No, that's my guess.
We're seeing a lot right now. They have Friday, Saturday this week. We've seen some weekend back-to-backs. Obviously, we talked these last 2 weeks, they didn't have more than one game or more than one day in between games and all. The schedule's just been wild. But you look at the playoff odds, and they're not quite what they were a few days ago.
Sure aren't.
But just getting the 1 point last night. I looked last night, if the difference between a regulation and overtime loss was 20% drop in odds, which wild. But you look at the Flyers, still a 63% chance to get in. Even the Islanders getting that win under 14%. They are
per money puck.
Per money puck. This is the money puck odds.
Money puck, as we've noted on the show, for some reason is very pro Flyers.
These other ones not so good. I didn't see you wrote the other ones down. So Charlie
have pretty pictures
outlined for us a couple of the other places that do the playoff odds, Hockey Viz and the Athletic.
I don't even know what that is.
And
who runs that site?
It's not quite as optimistic, Charlie. No, they're sub 50%.
That said, that is basically a coin flip. Yeah, I know it looks worse.
47 is 50.
Yeah, it looks 50-50. Worse when you're below 50, but I get the sense that, and again, a lot of this is being driven by the people I talk to, which is a lot of people online who are prone to fits of hysteria. I get the sense that most people think their odds are significantly worse than even the least optimistic of these three models, which puts them at 45%. I had a few will be it feels like they're at 12%. And I get it, because they just lost to Montreal, Chicago, and then lost a tight game to the Islanders. But in reality, they are still very much in this.
They are. It's concerning the way they're playing right now.
It's very concerning. And I totally get why people are losing their minds. But it's not over.
No, I was not happy on postgame right now, and I continue not to be happy. But these next two games, coming off of an actual stretch of days off, 3 days off for the first time in God knows how long, the All-Star break probably. Now, John Tortorella last night basically said, if you don't have the balls to play in these games, rest won't matter.
Accurate.
But this team has displayed that sort of resilience all year. If this is just a matter of being out of gas and not some larger problem, I think they can turn this fucking thing around.
They
but
can't
also,
fuck around this weekend.
Yeah,
they have
they
to win these
cannot
series.
fuck around this
4
weekend.
points.
At the
You
very
have
least,
to
you got to
win
get
this.
3 out of 4. But like, you really need to get 4 out of 4.
You really got to get 4.
4 points.
You gave yourself no cushion with this last 3-game stretch of nonsense. So you got to get 4 out of these 2 teams. Like, no way around it.
While we're having this little discussion on playoff odds, I think it's the best time to bring up one of our newest sponsors here at PHLY. It's Bet Parks. That's right. We have a sportsbook sponsor again, and it is our friends at Bet Parks. And I was just perusing it a little bit before we went live, checking out some of the futures odds. I love futures because it's hope. You know, it's like a draft pick. It's like a lottery
Could
ticket.
be a boat,
There's
Bill.
always hope that there's money ahead. And I'm looking at the Art Ross race, you know, the NHL's leading scorer. It's pretty tight right now. McDavid, McKinnon, and Kucherov all in it.
It's a fun race.
This is like one of the coolest races in a long time.
McDavid's going to break 100 assists.
Yeah,
it looks like, which is wild.
He's going to hit 100 assists. This all 3 guys. I think McDavid is favored at -118 because he has the games in hand advantage. Also, he's Connor freaking McDavid. Why would you bet against him?
This is true.
But you can get Nate Dogg, the guy who has been the best player in the league this season,
like
at
that
plus 405 at Bet Parks. Maybe you don't want to bet on the individuals. Maybe you're looking ahead to who wins it all. I know the guy next to me, Charlie O'Connor, is a big fan of that team down in Dallas. You can get them to win the championship at 11-1.
I think they're a complete hockey team as long as Jake Ottinger somehow remembers that he's Jake Ottinger.
It's basically double the odds that you can get a team like Colorado at. I think those two are kind of a coin flip to come out of the West. I don't mind Dallas at that. So you can win a ton over at Bet Parks. Make sure you're playing with the Bet Parks Sportsbook app. And if you win your first $10 bet, you can earn $125 in sports bonus bets. You play for fun. You love to win. You bet. Download the app and play along with us. Must be 21 or older. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Download that BetParks app. All right. So those are the playoff odds. Real simple question. It is April 2nd. There are 14 days left in the Flyers season. Will they play beyond that? Will they make the postseason for the first time since 2020? Kelly Hinkle.
Yes.
The optimism is oozing out of you right now.
I need them to.
The most optimistic among us, Kelly Hinkle.
Yeah.
You say yes.
Yeah.
But it is with fingers crossed.
Maybe it's probably the wild card, but I think they're getting in.
Charlie O'Connor. Do they play a game after April 16th?
You know, I'm gonna say yeah, but I will say that like I'm more saying that because I feel like if I say no, I'm gonna get eviscerated. Like I was the one saying in February when they were doing really well, like I still don't think they're gonna make the playoffs.
You were.
In part, that was because I thought that the Devils were going to pick it up at some point, and then they just continued to stink. And then once it seemed like everyone was collapsing, I was kind of like, well, I guess they're just going to get in because no one wants this. And then suddenly the Flyers became one of the teams that also doesn't seem to want this.
When the Devils won the Stadium Series, it was like, okay, here's their turning point.
Yes.
And it was like they just did a U-turn and went back where they came from. Like it was, this season has been just freaking ridiculous. I'm going to say they get in.
Yay!
Probably
Look at us.
via the wild card. I believe that this team, because of the resilience they've shown all year, has it in them to turn it around. Now, after this weekend, if we wake up on Sunday morning and they don't have 4 out of the 4 points they needed to get Friday, Saturday, my view will have changed, and I assume we will go to any of these playoff odds websites, and those odds will have changed dramatically.
Yeah, they will be in the toilet unless every other team loses, which hell, you never know. But here's one thing I want to talk about last night's game, because, and again, maybe this plays into my view of the game. I understand, and we broke this out in post game, like, I understand why John Tortorella was livid. John Tortorella was livid primarily because of the second period, because he looks at it as, I throw this Russian guy in, I'm expecting the team to rally behind him, and instead they force him to save the game rather than it being the other way around, which was I'm hoping the players bail him out. It ends up being the opposite. Like, props to Fedotov, he did it. But the fact that he had to is embarrassing. That said, they do come back and tie the game with 9.6 seconds remaining. I am generally of the opinion that shootouts especially, but overtime as well, kind of a crapshoot. And if they go out there and they win in overtime, this entire show is, we're all super excited about 100%. The Flyers.
Because they won, though, Charlie.
But my point is that, like, I think overtime is barely hockey. Shootout is actually not hockey. So, like, I don't think I'm not going to go into this as being, like, so livid at the Flyers because they lost in overtime.
Okay.
That's generally my view of it.
We talked about this last night. It's not so much. I mean, it is ultimately that it's a loss and not a win, but it's the different opportunities they had throughout the game to really just seize control of it and weren't able to. What did they need so bad last night? Just get an early lead. Like, don't give up a first soft one. Don't suck. Yeah. They do it. And then, all right, they played an okay first, but it was fine.
Yeah.
Then they give up the 2 goals. Ayerson doesn't look great. You have Fedotov come in. That should be just a huge emotional boost. And they get the big Sanheim, like they fucking Bobby Orr and
goal. So sick.
Incredible. First,
and he's playing through multiple injuries, which made it even more impressive.
That dude might not have 2 legs to skate on. Gets the goal. Yeah. Man, all right, we have Fedotov. We have this goal, new game. Let's go. They then go on to get destroyed in the second period.
Yeah,
they tie it up late in the third, and they never touch the puck in over. It's just like, what? Like, why couldn't you just grab a hold of? Like, that is my frustration. And I know, like, the carryover from the third period to overtime, that's tough because it is a totally different thing. But, like, same time, impose your will. Just you imposed your will all year on teams and outworked them. Do that again, and they just haven't been able to string that together for any length of time.
I have a question, Charles.
Yes.
As someone who doesn't get to see practice, do they practice 3-on-3? Like, do they ever practice the strategy of winning a hockey game in overtime? Because I kind of agree with you that since it's not real hockey, it's not the same kind of, like, odds, I guess, of one team or another winning. But the Flyers seem inordinately bad at it. There's so many times that they start in overtime and don't get the puck.
I mean, are they inordinately bad at it? Like, how many overtime losses do the Islanders have? Like 15?
I don't care about that.
I'm just saying.
I know, but I'm saying, like, for a team that they're not the most talented team, but they got a couple of weapons that you would think theoretically should be able to win you at least a few overtimes. But half the time they're not on the ice. If they are on the ice, they look like they don't know what they're doing, like they've never played hockey before. Like, it's a very strange thing for me as a fan to watch them in overtime and not see anything that makes sense at all. And I don't know if it's coaching or if it's players. It's probably a combination of both.
I personally think it's players. Because, so to answer your initial question, no, I can't remember a time where I've ever seen them practice 3-on-3. However, in my conversations with other beat writers,
no one does.
No one practices 3-on-3. Like, it's just not something. It's just not something you do.
That's a meeting room thing.
And also the way it's viewed generally is 3-on-3 is where the skill shows, because there's all this space. You do the regroups and all that, and there's like general instructions the guys get, like whether you're gonna play conservative. Obviously, the Flyers last year had the whole 2 defensemen thing, so that was something they certainly talked about. But for the most part, the view is that 3-on-3 really isn't something that you coach, because what it more is that you put your skill guys on the ice and let them be skill guys, because there's tons of
that.
Well, he did that last night.
Last night he did for the first time in a long time.
And it didn't work.
It didn't work.
I will say the first shift with Lawton and Forster, to me, is a great improvement over Paling Cates.
Yes, it is an improvement.
Those guys are legitimate bottom of the lineup checkers, while Lawton and Forster, they might not be first line guys, but they can both check and score.
Well, that's the thing I don't understand.
Well, but you saw why not when Morgan Frost turns the puck over and turns to a goal. That's why not.
But I feel like you're never if the consensus is, okay, this is where the skill guys just go do skill things and maybe they win the hockey game. I don't think John Tortorella has ever once put the 3 most skilled hockey players onto the ice in overtime together.
I'd have to go back and look. I think his thought...
My memory is flawless.
I think his thought process is, and again, I don't agree with it, but I can understand where he's coming from. His thought process is, if I match skill with skill against 95% of the teams in the league, we are going to lose.
I mean,
because
Nathan McKinnon, sure.
Our best guys are not as skilled as their best guys, which, like, the Islanders aren't the Avs, but I think that's still true.
But, like, Matt Barzal, is better than, more skill-wise than pretty much anyone.
Yeah, I think he's more skilled than Travis Konechny, and I think very highly of Travis Konechny. Yeah. I think Noah Dobson is more skilled than Cam York. Like,
I think the Flyers' most... And like, you can look at this a bunch of different ways. I think the Flyers' most skilled player is Morgan Frost.
Yeah, in terms of just pure puck
skill,
like on the pond
vision,
skill.
Yes,
yeah,
vision and puck handling. I think that's him.
Yeah,
I think ability to make shit actually happen.
Yeah, Konechny.
It's like Konechny.
Yeah,
but so much of that is effort mixed with like,
and also
I'm faster than most of these guys.
Konechny's just fast.
Yeah, like,
so yeah,
I'm faster than like probably 95th percentile. Like, yes, Connor McDavid blows him away, but like, I think like, if we're going to play a possession game and there's going to be awesome dishing of the puck, like, it's Morgan Frost.
Yeah, so I think that's what the theory is from Tortorella's part, is that
but ultimately, like,
if I go skill versus skill, we're going to lose. So what I will do is I will go checker versus skill and then figure that our top skill guys are better than their secondary.
We'll match up with their second line guys because our best players are second line guys.
Never seem to get there, though.
They're never going to say it out loud, but I do think that is the thought process.
It makes sense. We're going to finally get to Ivan Fedotov now because that's all anyone really wants to talk about today.
It's talk about
the
Scott
happiest
Laughton,
thing.
Throwing that out.
But first, let's talk about Olipop. Everyone last night, listen. You know, I'm not even the biggest fan of root beer. I side with the Hanson brothers when it comes to root beer. But I had an Olipop root beer last night, and I actually enjoyed it. Listen, Olipop is the world's first functional soda with a classic soda taste and the benefits of plant-based fiber, prebiotics, and other botanical ingredients to support gut health. Olipop is a new kind of soda with only 2 to 5 grams of sugar and 9 grams of fiber per can. 2 out of every 3 Americans say they suffer from digestive issues, and 95% of Americans don't get the daily recommended amount of fiber. Olipop is tackling both these issues with a drink that tastes just like soda. Prebiotic fiber is the food source for the beneficial probiotic bacteria in your gut, and Olipop has 9 grams of prebiotic fiber in every can that can help support your digestive health. And when you've got a gut like mine, you got to keep it healthy. Olipop is available online and available in almost 30,000 retailers nationwide, including the most recent launch at all Wawa stores. Olipop's debut couldn't be more of a match made in heaven. A delicious, healthy drink meets a convenience store where we get everything else anyway. Now you can get your sandwich, your snack, and you can get a tasty soda that won't leave you feeling guilty about drinking a can of poison, because that's not what Olipop is. It's actually not the worst thing in the world for you. And the 2 flavors debuting at Wawa are classic root beer and strawberry vanilla. Not a root beer fan. Drank one voluntarily for the first time in my life last night. Was not disappointed. Use code PHLY20 for 20% off your next order of Olipop at drinkolipop.com. This discount only applies to one-time orders, not subscriptions. Olipop is sold online, drinkolipop.com, and Amazon, and available in almost 30,000 retailers, including Wawa, Target, Sprouts, Wegmans, and ShopRite, and GoPuff. Drink your Olipop. Get it at drinkolipop.com. Use promo code PHLY20. All right, Ivan Fedotov.
Fetty.
It happened.
Fetty?
I'm making it happen.
Okay.
That's my thing.
Okay.
He's here. The long saga, almost 9 years after he was drafted.
It's wild.
7th round of Ron Hextall's second draft.
The second draft? Oh, my God.
2015, and now he is a Philadelphia Flyer. He made his debut last night and didn't look too bad.
Yeah.
Liked what I saw for the most part out of Ivan Fedotov. I loved his full-length clear that was a lot of fun.
I loved that.
He's got a little personality, it looks like, out there.
Yeah.
When he went to the wrong net in overtime.
That
was very endearing.
So cute.
That
very
was
endearing.
so goddamn
I
funny.
love him with my life.
Oh yeah,
my entire happiness is invested in this man's success.
Like I just imagine, like at least Varlamov can like tell him,
Yeah.
like,
no,
hey
buddy.
man, what are you doing? You know, at least they're from the same place. But just initial impressions of everything that's happened over these last couple of days, and then we'll get into what actually happened in last night's game.
I mean, I give that kid so much credit. And I guess it's funny. We called him a kid when I was on with Anthony Gargano. He's 27, going on 28. I guess he's still a kid. I mean, whatever. When I was 27, I still felt like a kid.
Yeah, I was basically home.
I still feel like a kid now.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
All right.
So
it's all about how old you
we can
feel.
still call him a kid.
Everyone should be a kid.
It's all about how old you feel.
Yeah.
This man has lived many lives.
That is true.
He probably is a grizzled vet at this
he probably
point.
feels like he's in his 50s after the shit he's had to go through. Jesus Christ. But I was not expecting him to look as good as he did. Now, I will say, and I did point this out on Twitter before, I think it was like this weekend, maybe it was Friday, where I am of the belief, and I was of the belief, that I felt like Fedotov had a chance, a pretty good chance, and I was even somewhat expecting it, that he was going to start out strong once he got into games because teams have no tape on him. And like somebody jumped in my mentions today because of course they did. It was like, what do you think teams don't watch the KHL? I'm like, no, they don't.
No.
Like, yeah, they theoretically have access to tape. But no, I do not
How much time do you think these people have?
Yeah, like there's only 24 hours in a day. They're not watching every single goalie in existence, especially not the goalies who no one thinks are going to be able to come over.
He was a prisoner of war goddamn 12 months ago.
So no, at the moment, no one in the NHL really has significant tape on this guy to know his strengths and weaknesses. And I said this on Anthony Gargano's show this morning. You could tell on multiple occasions during this game. There were times where there would be an Islander player coming down, looking at Fedotov, and you could tell they were just like, I don't know what the fuck to do. Like, where do I shoot?
He's so big.
The Barzell breakaway, when you see him look up, you can just see him go, well,
Yeah.
What?
Where?
I can't see the net. No, it's
but
you're
do think
unsustainably like even if it's, oh my God, he's got a .950 save percentage through his first two appearances simply because how do you beat him?
Yeah. I just think that he, given the circumstances, he was being put in position where I think he will get off to a good start, even if he stinks at the NHL level, which I'm not saying he will. I'm just saying we don't know. But even if in 2 years we're looking back and we're like, remember that Fedotov guy? You know, that was fun, that little bit where we thought he was a guy. But for now, I think he can definitely benefit from the fact that he's extremely large and teams don't know how to beat him yet. That said, I did not expect him to play this well 4 games into his NHL career while still breaking in new equipment, possibly still a touch jet lagged.
Yeah.
Like, I was not expecting him to look this good, and the fact that he did makes me feel not even as so much good about like his talent, because I don't know how talented he is and how he will translate to the NHL level over the long term. What it makes me feel very good about, however, is the mental side of his game. Mm-hmm. The fact that he was able to come in this big of a game in the second period, coming in cold, like doubly cold. Number one, coming in cold because he didn't warm up as if he was a starter. Number two, coming in cold because he hasn't had a full practice with the team. Number three, coming in cold because like it came from friggin' Russia. He's coming in literally from the cold.
Yeah.
Metaphorically and actually. I mean, shit. And he put up a pretty darn good game. So that makes me feel good about his, as I put it in my article, his testicular fortitude.
I love that, Charles. It is funny watching someone out there in like the crispest, whitest goalie gear you've ever seen in your life. Just like not a single puck mark.
I love goalie helmet art. I dig the all-white helmet.
It is cool.
Like, it's pretty cool looking.
Especially with like how everyone has gone on board with the like, we need the special designs. Having one guy do the all-white,
it's neat.
That's cool.
I will say, I give the Flyers a lot of credit here because it would have been very easy for them to give up on this guy. And I feel like regardless of what happens, I really like that they gave this guy, after everything that he's been through, the opportunity to live out his dream in the NHL. Agree. It's fucking awesome. And they didn't need to do it. And it seems like maybe if last night is any indication, it's going to be a good thing that they did. But I just feel like on a personal level, on like a human story level, it's very cool that he's getting to do this.
Regardless of what happens after the season, or even in his next start. Like his first start. Like,
his first start. This wasn't even a start.
Like, regardless of what happens from here, this is one of the coolest things that has happened on or off the ice for the Flyers in a long time. And for him, dude, awesome. Like, I'm happy for you as a human being.
Yeah, as a human being.
This is so cool. He was 12 months ago on a submarine. Like, and now he's in net for the NHL. And that's where I want to get into the argument of how batshit insane it actually is to think he could have started last night.
He could have.
Because
Charlie, he could
when
have.
you talk about, he could have done anything. It's John Tortorella.
When you
he could put you in goal, and I'd be like, it's Torts. Torts being Torts.
I'm very short.
Under normal circumstances, a dude just all right, maybe that's crazy. Everything this dude has been through, making your NHL debut was a big deal. It's probably not going to faze him the way trying to leave the country and getting arrested for evasion of military service. Like, he has been through so much that, I think he could probably handle it. Like, here he is, on the other side of all that crazy shit that happened.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm trying to read his mind, and that's impossible.
But I also don't think, here's my thing. And I guess part of the reason why I was so adamant about not throwing him into the situation is because I don't want to put even more on this freaking guy. Like, to me, what you're basically saying is, oh, this guy's been through so much shit. Let's give him more shit. Yeah. Like, I don't think, in my mind, it's like, oh, just because someone's been through hell, therefore they can deal with more hell. Yeah. No, I would rather cut them a little bit of a break.
I didn't read how Animal Farm ended, but the horse seemed to be able to handle it all, right? Anyway.
Oh, my God.
I did read the end. It's like a 200-page book.
What a reference.
But seriously, I think that's part of where I'm coming from. That was a really good reference, by the way. But seriously, part of where I'm coming from is that I didn't think it was fair to Fedotov to be thrown into this game, this big of a game, because this is a really friggin' big game.
Yeah.
4 days into his NHL career, not having a practice, not having time to break in his equipment, not having time to get to know his teammates. Because, as good as he looked handling the puck, he had no friggin' clue what his teammates were doing.
Oh, no.
No idea.
There was a couple,
no idea.
He put the pass in a spot for, Jamie Drysdale in, an easy breakout once, and it was just, not where he wanted it or not where he was expecting it. It was yeah, man, listen, Fedotov has a better handle on English than I have on Russian. Being able to say some words and knowing what you're saying are two different things.
Yeah.
He's not communicated much with his teammates.
No. So I think for me, my railing against the idea was more about, I didn't think it would be fair to Fedotov to put him in this situation. Now, they did it anyway, and I think, and we'll get into this in a sec, I think this plays into why John Tortorella was that pissed off at the team. But they did it. They clearly just decided, well, we got to throw a Hail Mary here because Ersson, shit, he really don't got it tonight. And props to Fedotov, he looked friggin' good.
And that's my issue, is I get you're coming at it from the Fedotov perspective, but for me, I'm just looking at purely from all guys, the whole team, Philadelphia Flyers perspective. There was no risk because the worst case scenario is he looks exactly like Ersson's looked. He looks exactly like Felix Sandstrom's looked. Yeah. What's the worst case scenario here? He gets lit up. Ersson has sucked for a month and a half. And listen, this is not an indictment of what I think Ersson could be. I think he's been much like Fedotov. I mean, off-ice stuff notwithstanding. Right. Much like Fedotov, thrust into an unfair situation.
Agreed.
The shit that he has, agreed, from being the backup this season to earning a little bit more of the ice time to all of a sudden, hey, bud, you're the starter and we don't have a plan B, so good luck, bro.
They've run him into the ground.
They've absolutely run him into the ground. We'll go over his numbers in a bit. But, from a team perspective, the thing that you don't know what the answer is better than the thing you do know. Ersson does stink right now. Maybe no fault of his own, and I think he might end up being pretty good. He's not good. He's stopping less than 88% of the shots he's faced since February 15th. That's bad.
Not good.
See, I guess this is where I disagree, because I don't think that Ersson was playing as poorly as you seem to believe.
It wasn't his worst game last night,
well,
for
no,
sure.
well, I mean, last night was bad. What I'm saying is that diving in, like, yes, you throw out like 8.77 save percentage. Yeah, that's on the surface pretty bad. However, before the Chicago game was rough, yes, but before that game, Ersson, if you're looking at goals saved above expected, was right around break even, which means that essentially he was playing like a league average goalie. Now, Chicago didn't go well.
No.
He gave up 3 goals by the numbers that he was like -3 goals saved above expected. So it was real bad.
So all 3 basically shouldn't, like, it's not even like a like 0.5. Like, it's just like, yeah, man, those are 3
None of
expected
those.
saves.
Yeah.
And listen, it's not even the way I mean, it is the way he's played, but it's also, it ain't going to get any better if you keep running him out there.
Right.
Like, that's the other part of it to me. Like, the team needs to know, or at least have an idea that there might be a save, and it was only getting worse. Like, that's okay. He did that, and then there's been no recovery since then. He's become gradually worse. He's clearly run down.
Well, to me, it was, if you thought that you were going to get the same guy from the Chicago game, yes, that guy appears worn down. I think they were looking at it as, maybe it was just a bad game. Like, yes, he's tired, but it's not necessarily that he is completely cooked. Well, the first goal, that I'm willing to accept that as a bad bounce. It takes the weird hop off of Zamula's stick.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you hope the goalie can still stop it because it kind of goes through him. But, like, yeah, tough play. Second goal, that was like, oh geez. And that my thought after that goal was like, oh God, they're gonna have to like only give up 5 shots on goal the rest of the game if they want to win this, because he just don't got it. They were hoping they could get him to this 3-day break, have him play this last game. Apparently that wasn't the case. Then I guess Torts just figures, well, I'm going to throw the Hail Mary. I'm going to go to the Russian because why
What
not?
else? Right,
I guess. I still probably wouldn't have done it, but I understand why he did it, because he's just like, sure. But again, I'm looking at this from I didn't want to put Fedotov in that position. And again, this is where I want to get into the Torts stuff, because John Tortorella was very, very angry after the game. It runs in opposition to how not angry he was after the Chicago game, where he basically was like, the boys are tired. What can I do? This game, to me, like, they get a point out of this game. They come back in the third. Yeah, they lose in overtime, but they get a point out of it. They show pushback in the third. It's not like
at least they fought back.
It's not like these guys quit. But to me, I think his anger stemmed from the fact that he knew how difficult of a spot he was putting Fedotov in. And the only reason why he felt comfortable putting Fedotov into that spot is because he was trusting that the boys were going to have his back. And they were going to be fired up, and they were going to be like, you know what? This guy ain't facing a friggin' shot on goal. We're going to block everything. We're going to have the puck constantly. And the Islanders are no Avalanche. They're not a juggernaut. You can carry play against the Islanders. They're not a super team by any means. But what it seemed like happened was, and I'm even willing to forgive them the Barzal breakaway, because you know what? If you're carrying play
the way the Flyers do, you give up stuff the other way.
You're going to give up stuff like that. But it almost seemed like once he stopped Barzal, the team was like, "Oh, we don't have to protect this guy. He's fine. He's good." And it's like, no, you should have been like, "Thank God he bailed us out." That should have fired you up more.
Yeah.
And instead, they sagged, and that was, in my mind, what was truly embarrassing about it.
That's where so much of my frustration, like, that's one of those, you know how, okay, you take a penalty and it's like, God damn, but then you kill it. And it's like, all right, let's fucking go.
Yeah.
Like, that save should have been he ain't going to face another one
Exactly.
moment. Like, and then they end up with 17, 18 shots in the period.
Yeah.
Like, they got half their shots in the game in that period.
And it was all in, like, the second half of the period.
Yeah, like, that was so disappointing to me. And that's seeing where this team is. That's why I think it had to be him, because if Ersson faces 17 shots in that period, it's 5-1.
Yeah.
Like, that's all there is to
the
it.
game's over. Yeah, the way given the goal he let up, that second goal, short side,
Like,
clean look.
We talked about Drysdale getting burnt on that second goal, and he did. He got turned inside out. Also, the shot's still coming from way outside.
Yeah.
Like, it is not a good in terms of getting, that's the best place. It's not like the dude came in and then put a deke on him or something. Like, no, he's still shooting from the hash marks, and it somehow ends up in the net. He was horrible. So, like, given the way he was playing, Fedotov had to come in. I just didn't see the risk for the team because worst case scenario, you're exactly where you were with the other guy.
As I said, I guess my thing is that I didn't view Ersson as completely cooked to the degree that you did, which is why I was not like, oh, well, just throw anybody out there. It can't be worse than what we have, because I didn't view Ersson at that point. I guess he is. Maybe he won't be after 3 days off or 4 days off if they give him Friday. I guess we'll see. But he was more cooked than I thought it was certain he was. Whereas you apparently going into that game were already of the point of like, well, Ersson's going to give up 5, so might as well try the Russian.
And it's the combination of he, as well as like the team clearly doesn't have it in them, even if they hold a team to 15, 20 shots to like limit 4 high-end like slot chances or breakaways or something. The team doesn't have it in them to keep the goalie as clean as they need to. So you need the goalie who can bail them out. And I don't know if that's Fedotov. I do know Ersson is not at the top of his game right now. And you just look at the numbers. First 28 games, he ended up with a .901 save percentage, 3 shutouts. He's 15-9-3. And that .901 is pretty damn good. Like,
yeah, and the underlying metrics were like legitimately good if you adjusted for quality.
Yeah, and he's 30 at that point after the first 28 games. He's 30th out of 45 among goalies with at least 20 games played. He's somewhere in the middle, like 30 out of 40. Like, okay, it's not ideal, but rookie goalie and like, you know, not behind the best of teams and everything we know about this team. Like, he was holding his own. The last 17 games, .877 save percentage. He's 6-7-4 amongst goalies with at least 10 games played since February 15th. Ersson is 40th out of 41 in save percentage.
Not great.
Like, he's the worst goalie.
But that's the thing. I don't think he's the worst goalie because I don't think save percentage is accurately describing the quality of shots he's faced in a lot of these games. I don't think it's accurately describing
exactly how good or bad he's been. But if you give me a list of 41 goalies and he's the second to last,
yeah, it's not good.
Like, you know, only show me so many numbers to say he should be somewhere else on this list. Like, all right, is he top 10? No, like, is he middle of the road? Maybe. He hasn't been good by any means. He has not been good. And that's just where it is right now. Again, I don't think this is an indictment of his long-term future. Yeah. I don't think you can properly evaluate him given all the circumstances that have led up to right now. But the fact is he's letting in a lot of bad goals. Like, that's just the way it is.
What do you like, Chuck? Goal saved above average?
I do. Well, goals saved above expected is the one I like the best. Okay. Average, just GSAA, which is the stat you're talking about, that essentially just looks at how many pucks the guy is stopping relative to league average save percentage, whereas goals saved above expected evaluates each shot for quality and then determines whether the goalie gave up more or fewer goals than he would be expected given the shots, the quality of shots he's faced. That's the one I prefer. Now, the thing is that there's going to be slightly different ones depending on the site you use. I prefer Evolving Hockey. I think it's the best public site. But you could look at Money Puck as well. There's like there's the black box ones like Stathletes and things like that. What's the other one? There's another one that's black box as well. That's below. That's you essentially have to pay for. That teams pay for. I'm just blanking on the name, but they have their own. There's Clear Sight Analytics that Stephen Valaket runs that some people have access to as well. So there's different versions of the stat. Yeah. But the basis of the stat is how many pucks are you stopping relative to the quality of shots you're facing. Before the Chicago game, even since February, since he took over the load, he was about league average in terms of stopping about the number of shots you would expect. He wasn't doing better, but he was stopping about the number you would expect. Chicago game was where he gave up significantly more than you would expect. And then in this game, he again gave up more than you would expect. Maybe he's cooked for this season. Maybe the 3-4 day break will help him and he can come back because he's going to get one of these two games. They're not going to play Fedotov in both of the back-to-backs. I asked you that. I was like, please tell me you don't want that.
I almost wanted to be like, that's what I'm asking for. No, my thought is just like, play him Friday. He played well.
I agree.
He played well, followed up,
Yeah,
give Harrison the extra day.
Yes.
Harrison, I don't know how much he has in the tank, but it's not a ton.
Hopefully it's enough for Columbus.
I was going to say, if it's not enough for Columbus,
survive
then he's
the
got
goddamn
nothing.
Columbus Blue Jackets. That's all I'm asking you to do. Before we go on with some of the other players on this team I want to discuss, I'm going to discuss TrueMark Financial Credit Union. If longtime listeners of this show or BSH, whenever my personal life has come up in my financial situation, you've probably gleaned that I know very little. My financial literacy is low. So when we got TrueMark Financial Credit Union as a sponsor, I had to find out, what is a credit union? I don't know these things. I barely have a checking account. So I looked into it, and TrueMark Financial Credit Union right here in Philly, figuring out the difference between that and banking at just your run-of-the-mill average bank. The differences have been eye-opening. Becoming a member of a credit union, you just have all these extra benefits. When you bank with TrueMark Financial, you become part owner, which means profits come back to you instead of going to shareholders. TrueMark Financial has better rates, lower fees, a better return on savings, and more flexible options. And of course, the same digital tools and technology everybody wants from their bank. But the best part for me is that TrueMark Financial is local. They're headquartered in Fort Washington, and with 24 branches across the Philly area, they are deeply rooted in our community. They serve our community and only our community, so their investments and programs help our people right here at home. Becoming a member of a credit union has so many benefits over being a customer at a bank. It's a total no-brainer. Head over to truemark.com/PHLY to learn more or find a branch near you. That's TRUMARK.com/PHLY, federally insured by the NCUA. All right, let's go to the guy who I might be being a little hard on Travis Konechny these last couple of weeks.
Nah.
But for a guy who wants maybe 8 times 9, something around there, I need a little more. I need a little more. You're supposed to be the team's best player. You're the only true talent, maybe first line guy on this team.
Yeah.
I do think you're being a bit hard on him. I do. Now,
I fully understand coming back from the injury.
And you're also talking about a guy who, just want to point this out before you go on your anti-Konechny rant. So since returning from the injury in 13 games, he has 11 points. It's not like he's not scoring.
Well, he could score a little against these bad teams. I'm just saying.
So could everybody.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying,
he's the one who has to.
Well, what I'm saying is, this isn't a Farabee situation where, his scoring has legitimately fallen off a cliff.
Gone.
Konechny in his last 13 games, playing through an injury that he probably came back too soon from, he is scoring at nearly a point per game rate, which it doesn't seem like you think he is.
I think, picking up a secondary assist last night doesn't do a ton for him.
Okay. Still goal.
All right, but anyone could have done that.
I'd like to see him do more, but I don't think this has been he is dramatically underplaying.
I just said I'm probably being a little unfair, but given the Torts quotes last night about how we're finding out about certain guys, and some of the things we might be finding out are negative.
Fair.
Do you believe Travis Konechny was one of the guys he was disappointed in last night?
Well, I mean,
it seems like
he benched him for some length of time.
He did not play the first 8 minutes of the third period.
One would assume that he's one of the guys. I would kind of like to, I don't want to hijack the conversation, but
please do.
This gets to one of my John Tortorella complaints.
Okay.
So Travis Konechny doesn't look as good as he wants him to in the second period. Absolutely fair. Most of the team didn't. So you bench him for 8 minutes. 8 minutes? Whatever.
7.5.
Yeah, something like that.
Scott Lawton looked like shit in that game. He did not look good at all. And he did not miss a shift.
He got 10 minutes in the third period. He played half the period.
Okay.
As did Tyson Forrester.
Okay. And then Lawton got a shift in overtime?
Him and Forrester kicked off the game with the overtime period, yeah.
It just, for me, I love Scott Lawton. He's not as good as Travis Konechny. He's never going to score you as many goals as Travis Konechny.
Absolutely.
So I don't understand I understand why he thinks this is a good idea. This whole like, I'm going to punish you for underperforming, but you're trying to also win a hockey game. And if I'm trying to stage a comeback in the third period, I'm going to play Travis Konechny way more than I'm playing Scott Laughton. It just makes sense. And I don't understand why he does that. It seems like he is actively shooting the team in the foot a little bit when he makes these in-game decisions with some of his best players, but he never seems to make those same decisions with the guys that are bottom of the lineup.
Especially, like, my biggest issue with it, I guess, is especially considering, like, you acknowledge with your overtime lineups, the way you've started overtime the last 3-4 times, you acknowledge that we cannot match skill. So the idea would be maybe try to get this thing done in regulation.
Yeah.
Especially considering the standings right now, regulation wins are like the ultimate tiebreaker, and the Islanders, the team you're playing, are never going to get in on that tiebreaker. So like this is a good thing for you to maybe try to get it done in regulation.
Yeah.
You're not giving yourself the best chance. And when you have a lineup like last night's with D'Lo,
yeah, you got to get D'Lo in
Cam
there.
Atkinson.
And
Who
the
the fuck?
Atkinson
Like,
choice.
okay, you're going to bench.
I don't understand.
You're going to bench TK for the first 10 minutes, first 7.5, 8 minutes. Who's playing? Who is out there that's going to help you win this game if you have 3 guys now that basically can't touch the ice?
And like the storyline ahead of the game seemed to be like, oh, Torch is going to lean on the vets. That's why D'Lo and
Couturier got hurt. He played 3
Well,
minutes.
yeah, he wanted to lean on Couturier, I think.
Well, yeah, I know. But I mean, like putting Atkinson in after you tried it last time and got literally nothing from him. Like, why are we still trying this? I know you like the guy, but also at this point, I don't think it's a good idea to not act like making the playoffs is important.
I mean, it's
like
very,
we've gotten too far.
Yeah, but it's very clearly important. I mean, you see towards his press conference, if he didn't think it was important, he wouldn't have basically yelled at the team. So
you can't fuck around with, I like Cam Atkinson as a person. I'm going to play him in a game I have to win.
Well, but in his mind, and I actually look, I'm ambivalent towards the playing Cam Atkinson thing because I don't really think Bobby Brink over Cam Atkinson is going to move the friggin' needle. Also, I can understand why you look at Cam Atkinson and you're like, you know what? I don't know how many more good games he's got left, but he's a guy where he's been in enough big games that I think he's got one more big goal in him. He didn't have it last night. He doesn't. But I get it. I get why a coach would do that.
I will say,
and be like, you know what? I trust Cam Atkinson more over a 10-year span to believe that he has one more big play in him and he's not going to screw up the way I worry that Bobby Brink would.
I will say, when he almost, there was early in the first period, a play in front of Varley, and there's like a scramble, and it looks like the Isles are going to clear, and then he lifts a stick and almost gets a steal for a shot, but then someone lifts his stick, and then I was like, oh, all right. We got Scrappy going to the net, Cam Atkinson. Yeah. He might think this is the last game of his career. I don't hate this idea right now. And then I didn't hear his name for the rest of the game.
He was pretty much invisible.
I almost for a second was like, all right, this is one of those Charlie Manuel moves. Like, Jeff Jenkins hasn't played in 2 weeks. Guess what? He's going to hit a home run in the third inning. And it was like, no, it's the coach.
Yeah,
guy.
I think truthfully the Atkinson thing was probably more of a gut feeling from Torts. And it turned out his gut was wrong, and Atkinson really didn't have shit. But coaches make gut decisions all the time.
Yeah,
it's what you do.
It's why you hire coaches. It's why computers don't run the team. I understand that. I also think, given where we are, again, I've said this many times, if the point of not tearing it down is getting to see dudes in these big games.
Yeah, fair.
Bobby Brink's one of them dudes. Yeah. And not saying, that's the reason they lost.
No.
Might have made no difference. They might have lost more because Brink screws up 3 times. Who the fuck knows? Yeah. I'm just saying, if we're finding out about guys, I know the answer on Cam Atkinson. If Cam Atkinson had a full tank of gas right now, it wouldn't matter. Because he ain't going to be here.
Yeah.
He's got no part of the future of this team beyond next year at most.
Fair point.
Maybe beyond this week. It just doesn't make sense to me. I'm freaking out right now.
You got to chill.
To chill.
Yeah, you do.
Everyone knows the Coors Light setup now. Chill. This team, they drive us nuts. The three of us, we've been doing this together a long enough time to know that they're always going to get us fired up. And that's why sometimes we all just need to chill. And there's no better way to chill than with an ice-cold Coors Light. So whether you're freaking out about the goaltenders, the lineups, injuries, veterans not pulling their weight, you need to find the Blue Mountains in your fridge and enjoy a beer as cold as the Rockies. Because when everything surrounding your favorite hockey team is on fire, and it is, sometimes you just got to chill. When you choose to rise above it all, choose chill, choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/PHLY hockey. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. So this Konechny thing, do you think it's like a one and done situation? Like we move on and he's back?
Has to be.
I think that they're going to scratch Travis Konechny? I mean,
do you think he's playing with Joel Farabee next game?
You know what, Bill?
On that fourth line?
I'm not even going to say. Farabee?
I'm not even going to say that I don't know, because you know what? It's been
2 years,
2 days since John Tortorella has done something crazy. Like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, maybe John Tortorella thinks he can scratch Travis Konechny this weekend. 14 hours. Yeah, 14 hours he's done something crazy. So, like, I am not going to say straight up that, like, John Tortorella won't do this random crazy thing, because he spent the last month just doing random crazy thing after random crazy thing. So I can't rule anything out. Do I think that he should scratch or bench?
No, I don't think he's getting scratched.
Or lower Konechny down the line? No. And I think the tell there was, it's pretty clear he was ticked off at Konechny. Pulls him off the power play, benches him for the first 7.5 minutes. But even as ticked off as he was, and it seems like what the real frustration point for Konechny was, it was that shift where the Islanders score the goal that puts them in the league. Because Konechny makes 2 mistakes on that play. The first mistake is he tries a stretch pass going through the neutral zone rather than just getting the puck in. It gets intercepted. The Islanders come back the other way. Then he's got the puck in the corner. And, well, some people, and I understand this argument, some people blame Lawton because Lawton went over to try to defend Eric Johnson after that play, which some people thought was a board. I actually thought was clean. I thought it was side to side. It was a tough hit, but it's hockey. Like, shit, hits happen. I also understand why Lawton his first thought would be, I got to defend my player. However, like, maybe you don't do that when you're trapped in the defensive zone.
Take his number.
With a Russian goalie who's 4 days into his NHL career getting thrown into one of the biggest games of the season. Like, maybe don't do it then.
Sort this one out at the buzzer.
Yeah, and maybe Lawton, if he doesn't do that, he's in position for Konechny to pass him the puck. However, Konechny's clear up the boards was the definition of soft. It goes right to the defenseman. They keep the puck in, and then they score a few seconds later. I think that's what ticked him off so much about Konechny. But even a play that is the antithesis of John Tortorella hockey, even then, it only took him 8 minutes before he realized, well, shit, I guess I got to play my best offensive player. We're down 1 goal in a must-win game. I can't, I bet every fiber of his being was screaming at him, fucking bench him. I'm angry. He shouldn't see another shift. And then at some point, whether it was Bradshaw nudges him or if it's just that little voice of reason in his head of like, I can't sit in the whole freaking period. We need a goal and nobody on this team can score. He did eventually put him back.
That's fair. He did.
Do
we know anything about Coots yet?
Nothing yet.
Okay.
I've been running around all day.
Yeah,
I was obviously on the Gargano show. I haven't been poking around sources. I assume we'll get some info on Couturier. At the very latest, we'll get some info on him tomorrow at practice because I'm not terribly optimistic he's going to be at practice. Let me put it that way.
Yeah,
it didn't look good.
I didn't think we had an answer. I just wanted to make sure we got to it. You mentioned the transition game, Charlie. You like looking for a stretch pass and looking at this team's offense right now. Obviously, the loss of Sean Walker has been huge. He was, a major part of that, 5-on-5 and shorthanded. Jamie Drysdale, not like he played great for most of the season, but he's a guy who can move the puck, both with his legs and passing. York and Sanheim, they're just put together with bubblegum and fucking popsicle sticks right now.
They're doing their best.
They're trying real hard.
Is that the issue with the transition game? Is it teams are, like, we know it's just a tighter checking game as the playoffs approach? Is everyone playing cover 2 right now? And like we got 2 guys deep on every time the Flyers touch the puck, it's like, all right, everyone just throw it in reverse. Why have all the odd man rushes dried up?
Yeah, I don't think it's just the defense. I think the forwards. There was a lot of talk last week about before they turned it around pre-Couturier. I guess it was 2 weeks ago, pre-Couturier scratch, before they turned it around for that brief period in terms of their underlying play. There was a lot of talk about the team just being disconnected. And some of that was the fact that there was new defensemen they're breaking in. Half the defense was hurt. They had rookies. They had Eric Johnson. But part of that was just the fact the forwards weren't playing that well either.
Yeah.
The forwards weren't coming back and helping as much as they could have. Then there was that week and a half long stretch where they did again. Now, especially in that second period, they just look disconnected again. The group looks disconnected. And when I say disconnected, I don't even necessarily mean that they're not trying to create those plays. I'm seeing a lot of times
just not on the same page.
Guys blasting the zone, Konechny blasting the zone to try to make himself available for a stretch pass. You're seeing it. They're trying to do it. It's just that the two sides aren't on the same page. So now when Konechny blasts the zone, then he's
now
just trapped.
5-on-4,
and then it's 5-on-4 for 5 seconds before he can get back. And then they're trapped in the zone. And that's 2 more shots on goal that happen because Sean Walker wasn't there to notice that Konechny blasted the zone and is open for a 2-on-1. It's a lot of things. This actually goes back to something, and I noted this in our Discord. Again, if you want to join our Discord, become a diehard, get access to that. I noted this today. And this is, I think, a good way probably to close the show in terms of a little discussion. A big reason why, and I guess I'm coming at it from a different perspective too, because I'm a journalist. I'm not, wearing the fan hat the way I did 10 years ago. But one of the reasons why I can't get angry about them falling off right now, and the reason why I won't be angry and utterly eviscerate this team if they miss the playoffs, is my belief that if they hadn't traded, if they would have kept Sean Walker, I think they would be solidly in a playoff spot. They traded Sean Walker, and I think that was the right move. Yes. That trading Sean Walker was the right move because this is a rebuilding team. If you can get a first-round pick for a guy who probably shouldn't be part of the future, or even if you should get a first-round pick for this guy, period, who isn't an impact player. He's a good player, but he's a middle-of-the-lineup guy. If you can do that, if you say you're rebuilding, you got to do it because compiling future assets and furthering the rebuild is more important than making the playoffs.
Yes.
I then can't a month later turn around and say it's a disgrace the Flyers didn't make the playoffs because they made a conscious decision to prioritize the rebuild over making the playoffs. Making the playoffs was, at that point, once you make that trade, making the playoffs is a bonus.
It's secondary.
It is not the goal. It would be really cool if we still get in, even though we blew up our second pair for a future first round pick. So I can say it's disappointing because I want to see them make the playoffs. It would be fun, but I can't eviscerate them to the degree I would have had they kept Sean Walker or had they traded a second round pick to buy at the deadline. Then I would be where you guys are and be like, this is a joke. You sold out to make the playoffs because that's apparently the goal now, and now you're choking it away. They purposely made their roster weaker to further the rebuild, and now at the worst possible time, you're seeing the negative consequences of that. It sucks. It's frustrating. It's even infuriating, but it's all the result of the fact that making the playoffs, once they made that trade, they made it clear, was a bonus, not the goal.
And they told us that all year long.
Anger is not the word. That's not where I am. I'm not angry. It's more like there's nothing worse than just missing.
Yeah.
I would rather they finish at the bottom.
It's exactly what every person who didn't like this plan
said was going to happen, and it's the worst.
Oh, great, you're going to draft 14th. Yeah. We get another draft Sanheim.
And that's why I'm not shitting on people who are angry. If you're angry about this, that's being a fan.
Oh, sure.
They were in a really good playoff spot, and they choked away games against Montreal and Chicago, and now they're not in a good spot. And fans should be pissed off about that because it just shows you still love the team.
Yeah.
I'm just saying from my personal perspective, as someone covering the team, I can't match that anger because I now view the playoffs as a bonus. But don't take this as me shitting on fans for being pissed off. You have every right to be pissed off that they are pissing away a potential playoff spot.
Well, that's the thing. If they miss, I'm not going to be like, I can't believe they traded Sean Walker. They should have done that.
No, they did the right thing.
But it's just that they were in the playoff spot for so long that you got to be like, oh shit, they're gonna do it. Oh my God, they're gonna do it. This is awesome. They're gonna make the playoffs. It's been so long. And then you get here at the part where it was supposed to get easier. And this is where they blow it. And it's like, God, come on, guys.
That's what's disappointing to me is if you're going to be the team that leads the league in balls per 60, that when it's nut cutting time,
show me the balls, boys.
Like, this is it, man. This is where you show your fucking toughness.
Yeah.
When everyone's hurt and the season comes down to a few games against inferior opponents.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, if they had gone 0-7 in that last stretch and that's why they lose out, like, all right, all those teams were better in the Flyers by a considerable margin. But you held your own.
I was going to say,
played,
they made
even in the games you lost. Even in the games you lost, you fought. And now it's Chicago and Montreal and the Islanders.
This is where you're going to blow it.
That's where when they lose to Montreal and Chicago, I said, it's not like one or the other. I'm both angry and disappointed. I'm mom and dad.
Mom and dad.
But like, now it's just like, boys.
I know. Come on, guys.
Let's get there.
Yes.
I don't care if you get swept in the first round.
No, I
just
don't
get
care.
there.
Let's play 86 games instead of 82.
Just get there.
You know, there's no. It's just all right. We'll get to the rest of this stuff later in the week. I just want to know who you picked for the Ashby and the Lindbergh. But we'll get there.
Mom.
We got time.
That is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers today. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed right here on YouTube. Set those reminders. Never miss a live show. We will be back. What's today? Tuesday. We'll be back Thursday morning with an early show for you. So make sure you're there for that. It'll be around 9 or 10.
All my post-practice notes up on YouTube after tomorrow's practice, so keep an eye out for that.
Tomorrow's post-practice is going to be great. Charlie always brings his A game on those. So make sure you're here on the YouTube, at PHLY_Flyers on Twitter. PHLY Flyers, wherever you find your podcast. That'll do it for me. My name is Bill Matz. For Charlie O'Connor and Kelly Hinkle, happy WrestleMania week, fam.
We all silly like the mayor.